Haverford Township Zoning Hearing Board of March 21, 2019. Here on the dais to my right, voting member Kenneth Richardson. Good evening. To my immediate left, our solicitor William Malone. To his left, Ed McGarty, secretary and voting member. And to his left, Jessica Vitale, voting member. With that, Ken, will you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Please rise.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Okay. Yep. Okay, so first order of business, I guess. Ed, do you have minutes you want to propose for approval?
Yes, we do had the minutes submitted to us by email, and I'd like to make a motion that we approve them as distributed.
And those are the minutes of the meeting on, February 21st.
That's correct, last meeting.
A second.
So we have a motion, a second. Any discussion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None? Okay, minutes past 4:0. We have a decision, but we're gonna, we have one continued case, but, which is Z-18-17, Dennis and Anne Marie Friel, owners of 155 Coopertown Road. Yep, you want to come up? Are you Anne Marie?
Yeah.
Hi, Anne Marie. This case was continued while some discussion was going on about the exact location of the fence vis-a-vis the right-of-way on both Coopertown and College Avenues. We received a letter from PennDOT, which has been, I think, provided by you, right, your counsel to us. We've reached out to talk to your counsel about a question that arose from that letter.
Yeah, she made us aware. She couldn't be here tonight, but I said we're still coming because we want to get this taken care of, so.
So the question, I think, okay. So there was a letter that we received, and we have, I think you're going to want to submit it into the record as an evidentiary submission.
Okay.
I don't remember, Bill, do you have record of the exhibit list?
I do. We're up to Exhibit A4, and that would be this March 7, 2019 correspondence from Kenneth McLean, MCCLAIN, to the Township Manager, Larry Gentili. So I'll have that marked as Exhibit A4.
Yeah, and you want to mark that?
Thanks.
Ms. Friel, the letter that's been admitted as Exhibit A4 confirms PennDOT's view that the location of the fence is not in the right-of-way of either College and Coopertown Road, which of course is very helpful to us. But it did suggest that there is an 8-foot gap between the outer edge of the right-of-way and your property line that dates back to when your property was subdivided. And that the fence is actually located in that 8.5-foot wide gap, at least in some places.
Okay.
Have you had a chance to
No,
talk
I
to
mean,
your
we did
counsel about
talk,
this?
we had the architect over there today again, and
Okay.
he was looking, and he was trying to explain to us too, well, whose property is it then, you know? And I said, all right, well, that's why we're here, because we definitely don't want to move the fence, so I don't know what our next step is, what we need to do, but we're willing to do whatever we need to do. And PennDOT told me that they're willing to do anything that you need them to do, like they, you know, I don't know if you need any other information from them, but,
Right. So I think when we saw this letter, our solicitor reached out to your counsel to ask her about it. We also asked the township to go through their records dating back to the original subdivision and see if we could determine who owns this 8.5-foot wide strip
Okay.
of land that separates your property line from the outer right-of-way. And Bill, I don't know if you have a summary, but effectively, I don't think the township was able to ascertain from any of the public records who is the owner of that land.
Okay.
That's correct. We don't have an answer as to who owns that.
And without going too far down, I think getting information about that from you or your counsel would be very helpful, because we may not be able to approve you a variance for you to put a fence on land that you don't own,
Okay.
right? That's the issue here, is trying to determine that. And we have, as I said, you can talk to the folks at the township. We tried to get this
Okay. So
determined.
John did talk today about going to the state to see what information we can get, so,
And, maybe you going back and looking at your deed and comparing it, and,
well, we've
your.
had 3 surveys done. So, I
survey,
mean, like, we
right.
can't have any more surveys done. I'd be
Understood.
like,
I'm not
yeah.
suggesting you need to resurvey it. I'm just saying you might want to see, based on your deed and talking to your surveyor.
Okay.
Is there any information that you have about who owns this strip?
Okay. All right, we'll talk to them. So then we'll just be continued till,
Yeah, I think we'd probably continue this to our April 18th meeting.
okay.
And that would also give you and your council time to try to really look into it, I think, and hopefully figure it out.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, thanks.
Thanks. And with that, I'll turn the gavel over to the chairman.
There you go. Thanks.
That was continued to April 18th.
Yep.
Our first and only decision this evening is case Z18-37, Haverford Mr. Storage LLC, owners of 629 Eagle Road, lot number 2. And unless somebody really desires to hear me read all of these different items into the record again, I'll leave it at that. The property is owned LIN, located in the fourth.
It is, but for one clarification, on the agenda and in the notice, there's reference that applicant is looking for a determination that the present impervious coverage is going to be reduced and does not require relief. The indication in the advertisement was that the present impervious coverage is 92.2%, and they're seeking to reduce it to 92.64%. That's actually a typographical error. It's presently 93.27%, and they're seeking to reduce it to 92.64.
And McGargy, would you please take that decision?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. I vote to approve the requested relief with the following conditions. First, a landscape buffer to be installed in compliance with the zoning ordinance. 2, proposed access road to be paved and no parking signs to be installed, and a fire access easement to be recorded for this access road. 3, EPA will approve any reduction or fill placed in the existing basin. 4, to be completed within 18 months of final approval. 5, and to be completed in compliance with the notes of testimony.
Jessica?
I approve.
Bill?
I agree.
Kenny?
I agree.
And so will I. That application's, those conditions, 5-0.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. Ladies.
Our next continued case is Z19-3, Manoa Medical Center Condominium Unit Owners Association and 1010 Realty LLC, owners of 1010 Westchester Pike, Havertown, PA, DC folio number 2209-027160-1, who seek variances from the provisions of section 182-701D1C2 to allow total signage of 55 square feet. Section 182-106B and/or 182-701D1 to allow a 7.5-foot tall monument sign, and/or section 182-701D1A and/or 182-701C1A2B to permit a freestanding sign, the bottom of which is less than 4 feet in height from grade, and any other relief needed for the proposed signage. Property is zoned O1 and located in the 2nd Ward.
Good evening, members of the board. At the last hearing, at the conclusion of the last hearing, I was asked if we could produce an exhibit to address the issue of whether or not the sign would have any impact on sight distances. And we have done that. We submitted some exhibits to the board a little less than 2 weeks ago, I think. And essentially, those exhibits consist of a plan showing a little more exactly the location. And if anybody doesn't have copies, I can hand up additional copies. Okay. I put the exhibits consecutively from where we left off.
Thank you.
So just looking at the exhibits, Exhibit A13 is the, just called sign exhibit, but it's an aerial that shows the location of the proposed sign, which is slightly different from what it was the last meeting that we were talking about, and it shows some distances. So it shows that the sign is 30 feet from the curb line of Westchester Pike, 36.6 feet from the curb line of Manoa Road, and I also had to put a dimension from the crosswalk that leads to that little triangular signal area, and that distance is 32.9 feet. So as you can see, the sign is set back a significant difference from the curb line. We then had Exhibit A14, which was submitted, which is a letter from Lynn Architects, and specifically Adam Powell, who's a professional engineer with Lynn Architects, who went out to the site, marked the exact location, prepared the plan, and wrote a letter indicating that, in his opinion, the sign would have absolutely no adverse impact on any sight distances for any traffic traveling on either of the road frontages, namely Westchester Pike and Manoa Road, and also would have no adverse impact on the ability to see pedestrians in any of the crosswalks, or the ability of pedestrians to see traffic traveling on those roads. And he explains his reasons why. And then we got some sort of photo simulations that were included in the exhibits, and that would be Exhibit A15, and it's two photographs. One shows the current existing conditions, and then the second one has the new sign or the proposed sign superimposed onto that photograph. And so this would be standing across Westchester Pike, looking towards the building. You can see the proposed sign and where it's located. Exhibit A16 is taken from a viewpoint, more or less, of the that traffic signal island that we discussed previously, in the area of the crosswalk, looking towards the building and looking towards the sign. And then Exhibit A17 is looking east on Westchester Pike. And you can see on A17 on the proposed conditions, which includes the proposed sign, that they've superimposed a person, and that person would be on the sidewalk getting ready to enter the crosswalk, so that you can see that traffic traveling eastbound on Westchester Pike would have a clear view of somebody entering that crosswalk. And I think those were the exhibits that we produced to try to address that one issue that the board asked us to present some additional information about. And I think if you take a look at Adam's letter, he's adamant that there's absolutely no adverse impact on any site distances, because the sign is just so far back from the curb that couldn't affect it.
So, Don, I'm looking at A9
A9.
and comparing it to A17.
Okay. See if I can get my hands on A9. Okay.
On A9, there's what appears to be electrical utilities box,
Right, I think it's a transformer. That's Pico's.
right? But I don't see it on A17.
It is there.
It's kind of shadowing out. I'll show you.
It's in the photograph. Yeah.
It-
I think A17 is taken back quite a bit from the intersection, whereas A9 is up close to the intersection.
So the previous plan that was submitted
Thank
showed
you.
that transformer being relocated.
No, it didn't. It did not.
Exhibit A2 says relocated transformer, approximate location.
No, I think it was relocated. I think it had been relocated. The other thing I should mention, that Mr. McGargy raised the issue about maybe moving the real estate sign that was out there, and we did that. We moved it back out of the right-of-way.
Will the Manoa Medical Associates sign on the building, is that coming down? Is that what you're planning to do?
No, that was proposed to stay, and honestly, the monument sign is more important to us than that sign, but the main reason for wanting to leave that sign, I guess it's twofold. One, it does provide, some people already know the Manoa Medical Center, just the building, and it's useful to identify the building, but not the 6 individual condominium units that are in the building. And secondly, we have concern that if we remove those channel letters, they've been there for so long, that you'd still be able to see the outline on the building. And frankly, we think it would look worse with that than if it was just, it's a pretty innocuous sign.
And the property owners want to keep that up there because it helps to identify from a place identifier.
It does, yes.
And but you'd rather your tenants were on a monument out front?
Right, because
And why the distinction?
we had testimony, I know you weren't here at the last hearing, but we did have testimony from Steve DeBattista from Zomick McMahon Real Estate, and they haven't been able to lease spaces within the unit for about almost 2 years now. And the complaint that they've gotten is that there's no signage, and the medical people that he's talked to have indicated they will not come without the ability to have some identifier of their practice, their individual practice. So the problem that we have is that we have 6 individual condominium units, whereas 30 square feet of signage is allowed if there's one occupant of the building. We have 6, so we have to divide it up. And he's had a number of people that, the other issue that was asked that wasn't the only issue. Other tenants talked about the parking, and we came in, we got a variance for parking, we put some additional parking in, yeah.
Right. So, okay, I would, and thank you. I am aware of you coming before, and obviously piecemeal variances and is zoning creep, right? And are you anticipating in any way the need to come back to this for this project in the near term? Because
I honestly don't.
we gave you relief to make it more marketable. We heard the story before.
Right. Originally, our real estate people said, parking, people are complaining about parking,
Right.
put the parking in, and then they said, and he talked about a couple, I don't know if it was on the record or not, but he talked about a couple of specific tenants who were interested in this space but would not come without some identifying signage for their practice.
We let the record open for the sole purpose of receiving additional exhibits that depicted exactly where the sign was going to be placed. So we've received those. Any questions, Kenny, about
I have nothing further.
Jessica?
No further questions.
Ed?
No, and I agree with Jessica, that transformer, I'm glad that we're not in the approval process for that, because it does look like it obstructs the vision.
We don't really control that.
I understand.
Bill, anything else?
No, nothing else, thanks.
Not anything else you'd like to add?
No, sir, thank you. Just move for the admission of the exhibits, and I think you just did that. Okay.
With that, we'll close the record on this, or actually, I'll ask if there's anyone present that received certified mail that wishes to testify about this case. Anyone present that received regular mail? Any other residents of Haverford Township? Now we'll close the record on this case, and we will attempt to make a decision this evening. In the event we are not able to, a decision will be rendered at our next regularly scheduled meeting on April 18th. That's it. Thank you. Our first new case this evening is Z19-4, Tamer and Fatma Guvin, owners of 345 Brookline Boulevard, Havertown, PA, who request variances from the provisions of Section 182-206B, 182-802D1, to allow the front portion of the dwelling to be used as a coffee shop. The property is zoned R4 and located in the 7th Ward.
Good evening, Board. Joseph Consul for the owners of Joseph Consul, Console, for the owners Tony and Desi Guvin of 345 Brookline Boulevard. They purchased the property on December 31st of 2018. It's the corner of Brookline and Wexford Road across from Annunciation Church. It is and has been split up between residential and commercial space. The residential space in the back is 1,450 square feet. It has a garage and a parking space. The commercial space in the front is 600 square feet. According to the UNO records that we were able to pull prior to 1991, the commercial space was operated as a craft studio, and then starting in 1991, it operated up until the present day, or at least it's been legalized as a beauty salon through the present day. So we have a history of commercial use. The goal is to have the residential portion be owner occupied, and to have a coffee shop operate out of the commercial portion in the front would be an excellent commute for my clients. Obviously, though, because the type of commercial use is changing, we need to come in front of the board to seek your approval for the variance. We believe it's a great use for the space. We think being able to beautify the exterior is going to be beneficial. Right now, if you're aware, it's somewhat run down. Our plan is to open up the boarded up windows and turn all the double pane windows into single pane windows. to let the light in and make the space really look nice. We also think that there is a desire for this type of space where you can pull up, park easily, grab a coffee, a bagel, and be on your way. We had multiple renderings done by our engineer/architect to kind of play with the space and seek the best layout. The one that we submitted that we think's the best provides 4 parking spaces, one of which is handicap accessible. It has a handicap entrance, and it gives us 6 small tables inside. We believe those 4 spots on the interior of the property, along with the 2 designated spots on the street, will accommodate our needs. But as you're all aware, there's also additional street parking on Wexford and on the other side of Brookline. Let's see. We are in compliance with the code, which requires 1 space for every 100 square feet of floor area devoted to patron use. We're under 400 square feet of patron use space. The remainder of the 600 square feet to be used for making the coffee and other, cleaning and kitchen stuff. The owners bring 15 years of managing and ownership experience for local coffee shops. They're both called Tuscany. There's one in Havertown and there's one in Center City. The goal is not to have a diner. The goal is to do breakfast sandwiches, bagels, muffins, salads, and of course, various types of delicious coffee. And the hours, which we're open to discussion on, would be till 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon. That's really our spiel. You guys should have pictures. I have copies if there's anyone that would like to see anything in the galley here.
Well,
2 exterior shops and there's an interior layout.
you want to go talk? Joe,
Yes, sir.
this board typically will accept all of your exhibits here at the hearing, not what's in the packet. So anything you want marked, and
We're not supplementing the packet.
the packet's not in evidence as of yet. That's what I'm getting at. And the packet that I have doesn't have any pictures either. So,
We were asked to send in 7 copies, which we did.
right, and I don't know if any board members have pictures in their packets, but I do not. So
Well, I've got 2 photos and a floor plan if that would,
what I would suggest is anything that you want the board to consider, that we just have each of them marked, and I'll accept all the exhibits.
oh, sure.
No need for the deed. I have reviewed the deed.
Okay.
That's fine. But if you want the certificate of occupancy from the past, or the plot plan submitted, let's go off the record, have anything you want marked, hand it up to me, and we'll have the board look at it. So we'll go off the record.
Okay.
We'll resume the hearing.
Hello, everyone. We're
Okay,
back on
Joe.
the record. All right, so I'd like to submit 3 exhibits
Okay.
into evidence. The first exhibit, labeled A1, is the certificate of occupancy dated August 2nd, 1991. The second exhibit is the plot plan. And the third exhibit is just the front and side photos of the property that were submitted.
Joe, while that's being passed down to the board so they can take a look at those, can I just clarify, and we can handle it? The application itself indicates on the acknowledgement page that you signed it, but the applicants will be present at the hearing. I believe I know that they're here. Before we complete your case in chief, whether or not you're going to call them, one or the other will need to come up, be sworn, and indicate that they are adopting your statements and that they're consenting to the presentation of this application.
Would you like to do that now?
We'll do it at the end.
Okay. No problem. I have other versions of those if that would speed up everything but the CO.
Thank you.
Okay, go ahead.
That's really the main thrust of our case is we're seeking to continue a commercial use. We believe with the love that the owners are going to put into it, it's going to be a really nice space for the community. That's really it.
Question? Kenny?
I'd like to talk to you a little bit about the parking
Yes, sir.
and in A3, there's a picture when the- it was a salon, beauty salon,
Yes, sir.
and looks like there's grass in the front, and all the neighboring property there has front lawns. Is there a history with this building that they have some kind of approval to park on the front lawn?
I don't know about an approval, not for parking, but there's a curb cut off of Brookline, and we have neighbors here that can attest to the fact that people have been parking on it as if it was parking for the salon. And there is an existing curb cut. I used it before I came here tonight to scope the property out like a
I'm looking at
weirdo.
at A3, and there seems to be a curb cut for the house to the right.
Mhm.
I don't see a curb cut.
I may ask, could I swear in my,
Sure.
Good evening.
please state your name?
Fatma Govan. I go by this Govan. Good evening. Fatma Govan.
How
Legal
do you
name?
spell it?
Fatma.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
And now your full name and address slowly for the record, please.
Fatma Govan, 345 Brookline Boulevard, Haverford Town, PA 19083.
Okay, go ahead.
I believe you asked about the curb. We actually had it replaced or improved this weekend. And it's actually for a parking. This doesn't quite represent it correctly. It is for a parking spot, for the parking space. And the previous owners told us that it was previously approved for parking and it existed and it did have the marks for the parking on the side, two on this side, and there was one here previously,
when you
according
said-
to the previous owners.
When you said this side, you're pointing to the left. As you face the house on the first page of Exhibit A3,
Yeah,
so to the left,
to
and
the
then
left.
right here is the right side.
Yes. I believe it wasn't maintained very well. That's why you see grass on it. I wish I could show you the current, well, currently it's still like this because we don't have any approval to do any changes on it yet, or corrections, improvements.
The Brookline Boulevard is a state highway. So if you have a curb cut on a state highway, then you should have, the state gives you permission to do that.
Yes.
And if you look at, looking at A3, you can see the driveway next door is an obvious curb cut. Do you see the
Meaning-
difference between
Yes.
the driveway and that, and even on the residence on your house, the driveway in the back, you'll see an obvious curb cut.
Yes.
I don't see that on the front of your,
I'm not sure this photo really represents it very well, but to the best of my knowledge, it is lower than it seems here in the picture.
Well, regarding the parking, we understand that there might be concern about that. Would you want us to seek state records or that sort of a thing? I don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater, whereas the use itself is not dependent on the parking approval on your end. So I guess I'll follow your lead on how you think we should approach that. But I don't want to get hung up on that as being contingent on our approval, because it's not. in our minds.
Okay, you don't have to have certain number of parking spots?
We have two, the engineer tells us there's 2 on the streets that would be dedicated to us. And I think we would need 4 total, in order to accommodate the 400 square feet.
Okay, that's all I have.
Okay.
Bill? Joe, so where are the 4 spots, and what do you mean by dedicated parking spots on a state highway?
This was just discussions that we had with the engineer who made the little graph on the top of the, on the top of the plot plan,
Yeah.
saying that we essentially, I don't know the answer to that. This was
Right.
just discussions that we had with him.
So, I see what you mean. There's a broader apron on Brookline than there, for obviously for the, than is necessary for the neighbor's driveway.
Yep.
And that may well be subject to a current road opening permit, I think they call them. And it just needs to get cleaned up, as you say, grass is growing. But then to put 3 parking spots on the corner, but you just mentioned that you thought there would be dedicated parking on the street?
That was,
So according to the engineer, since this is a corner property, it allows 1 parking spot on each side of the property. 1 on Brookline Boulevard and 1 on Wexford.
Yeah, I'm just
In
wondering
addition
whether
to
he's
those.
referring to parking further down Wexford into your curb cut that's
On the street, yeah.
on the street.
obviously, if we need further
Yeah.
explanation, we're willing to, continue and provide that.
Okay.
Like I said, it's not our goal to go, all or nothing.
Understood.
To
All right, then I'll leave parking. I'll just go through a couple questions then. 22 seats in your floor plan, right?
4, 6. Yeah.
And who will actually be working in the coffee shop?
My brother, actually, just family.
Okay. And you have 2 other coffee shops?
One is in Havertown,
Mm-hmm.
one is in Center City. We intend to possibly close the Center City location.
Okay. And your brother is living in the house?
Well, yes, he's living in the house. He allows me to live in the house for the time being.
Okay. So would there be anyone working in the coffee shop who's not living in the house?
No, we don't have enough room for
Okay.
another person.
And would the person working in there be working anywhere else?
Anywhere else?
Well,
No.
what hours are you thinking that this coffee shop would be open?
We're thinking 7 to 3 ideally,
7 to 3?
but we don't want to do 3:30 and, having stayed at 3. So between 3 and 4.
Which days?
For now, we intend 6 days a week, but we haven't really decided on what.
That would be Monday through Friday and Saturday?
Yes, or except for Monday, Tuesday through Sunday.
And so the person working there, if they were on vacation, or I'm sorry, the person living there, if they were on vacation, who would be working there? You'll close down the coffee shop?
Yes. Or
Uh,
I could replace, one of us can replace if that's allowed.
Well,
Yeah, it's business. You can.
I'll remind you, the zoning code requires for owner-occupied accessory use that no one is engaged or employed in the home occupation who's not a resident of the dwelling, right? So that would be one of the limitations that you'd have to comply with.
Understood.
Floor area, the ratio of the coffee shop floor space to the main house floor space? Did you run that calculation?
I didn't. This is just the way it's been set up, which is 600 and then 1450 for residential.
Right. So, the code sort of anticipates that this is sort of like a physician's practice. It's always referred to as a practice, right? But there is a limit on the ratio of the accessory use that you're looking for to the full home overall. And if you come back with parking, maybe you could have the architect or someone just do that
Yep.
calculation for you. That would be helpful.
Sure.
So the current signage of the beauty salon that's depicted in Exhibit A3 is, are you thinking that you'll have new signage?
We will have to replace this, obviously. It shouldn't be bigger than what it was before.
Okay. So same location, same overall size?
Yes.
How long is the average person in your other shops come in and stay?
The kind of shop we have in mind for this property is the one that my brother owns downtown, which is mostly pick up and go, sometimes 15, 20 minutes. We have 4 high stools there,
Right.
4 high chairs. So it's not very comfortable to stay any longer anyway. So normally it's between 15, 20 minutes if anybody decides to stay in.
So 15, 20 minutes, the average person. And in your experience in Havertown, the customer ratio between walk-up and drive-up, do you have a sense of what that is?
This specific location, we do not really know. I mean, I will have to guess.
Okay, so if people did stay for 15 or 20 minutes, and you have 22 seats,
Yeah.
and you're wildly fantastic and everyone wants to drink your coffee, that's a fairly high turnover for 4 parking spots. Even, that's why I'm wondering what ratio do you, from your experience, is walk-up? And maybe you can, people don't come in and say, I just walked here, right? So you don't necessarily know, but anecdotally, you might have a sense of it that might be helpful in your,
Meaning you'd like us to perhaps take a straw poll over the next week or so?
maybe, yeah, right? Or just maybe your customers in some of your stores because they're repeat and you know that they live close by and they only walk up?
That's what we guessed, really, because it's not some place that you would normally really drive to. It's mostly a walking area for the neighboring properties, whoever wants to stop by just for coffee and leave. I don't see it being anything like a diner. That's not the intended use at all.
So, but you would, and the food is more breakfast and lunch offerings?
Yes, like sandwiches and salads. And we are thinking that it will be mostly pickup.
Right.
And this space for the tables that we showed in the floor plan, this is the maximum that could be set up there, but it doesn't mean that we will necessarily put all those tables. And they will be relatively small.
When you're there in person, it feels pretty small.
Yeah, I would expect. I'm just thinking about the relationship between seating capacity and parking.
Gotcha.
Right. Okay, no other signage, display of goods for sale or anything like that? It'd just be the one sign that you currently have, same location and all that?
Very clean. That's what we do with our other places.
And you, are you renovating the building on the outside too? Are you changing the look of the building?
Yeah, with the windows and the entrance, as you see, it's very ugly currently, unfortunately.
So I see that someone's done a calculation presumably that you can get a wheelchair onto your stoop, right?
Yes.
So, right now, that's a 3-step or 2-step, ground floor, 2 steps up to your doorway.
Yes,
So you're gonna build the ramp over to the side,
yes,
in front of the designated handicap parking spot?
yes.
Okay, and, so after-school hours are not important to you?
No, not at all.
I don't have any other questions.
Are you going to be putting in, there's an existing walkway in the pictures from the sidewalk to the front door. Is that going to be remaining?
Yes, that was the intention.
Okay.
But we may do it from the side too, like, initially, this is our initial decision that the walkway will stay there.
So there, you may keep the side walkway and the front walkway.
And this one.
Yes.
Just because it's not showing
Yes.
up on the plan?
Yeah.
Okay. And then have you done any impervious surface calculations?
I'm very sorry. I couldn't-
Well,
Not yet.
we didn't. We
Okay.
were told that if it was needed, you guys would ask and we could
Okay.
come back with it, if so desired.
And would you be open for the parking spaces to have them not, with the exception of the handicapped space, to be some sort of material that is impervious and allows water to run through it?
Meaning, instead, is there, oh,
Instead of like solid asphalt, you can, it would have like some openings in it or something to
Oh,
allow
sure,
water to go.
we're open to whatever is allowed.
yeah, so like something that where the water would drain into the ground instead of pooling and running
Oh,
into
I
the
see.
street.
Mainly just because if you're adding so many parking spaces, you know, where's that water gonna go?
Yep.
Sure.
Yeah. Could you describe the surrounding properties around?
We have an owner, we have two owners of, that's, the next door neighbors, right here.
And, but is there no other types of, other than residential?
Church across the street,
There you go.
property behind, property to the side.
Have you spoken to all these other people?
We have not actually. I didn't want to go door to door. I didn't feel like I should be bothering or interrupting anyone like after hours because we work late hours ourselves and we come back late and that wouldn't be appropriate is what we thought. And we expected actually neighbors to come in and have their say.
Okay.
Two of them did.
Did you look at the ordinance and compare the parking requirements for a beauty salon and that of a restaurant, and whether is there any difference?
I did not compare the two differences. I just strictly was using the requirements for what was it. I just use a sit-down restaurant to kind of hedge on.
If I may, I have been in touch with the engineer longer, and actually he said it falls under the same category.
So it's one spot for every 100 square feet of parking. So the existing non-conforming use is the same parking requirement as this proposed.
To the best of my knowledge, this is what I know, yes.
And could you describe, for the record, I'm confused on these parking spots. So you don't come off of Wexford Road to park in these spots?
No, only through Brookline Boulevard.
All the, so they would come off of Brookline, and how would they come in if your car is parked in the curb cut? You have a curb cut all along the front of the property? Is that what we,
On Brookline Boulevard, you mean?
yes.
Yes.
There's got to be like an access, so they have turning access, which is where the sidewalk is. It's kind of a weird situation. Does a residential part of the property have no parking spots in the rear?
We do actually have a garage and the driveway to the garage, which allows two cars to be parked for the residential part of the garage. What's,
I have a copy of yours parking regulations, if that would be helpful, or I'm sure you guys can just.
Okay, no, it's on the record,
All right.
what we're comparing.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I was flipping through to find it. I know I brought it with me.
But you would still be able to use the driveway for the residential part to have parking, two off-street parking spots.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes,
that's all I have.
Anything else, Kenny?
No.
Right.
Just one question on your signage. Would you be looking to have that as an illuminated sign or just the same? I think currently it's not illuminated.
It's not.
no,
So-
we don't like bright things, so very simple, very simple, very clean. That's what we currently have in.
And not illuminated, and because you're not going to be open in the dark, you
dark,
won't
yes.
actually
We don't need it.
shine a light on the outside of the building or anything
No.
like that?
No.
no neon lights or anything like that, right?
We'll accept provisos to same, for sure.
Ed,
No.
Jessica? Anything else you want to add or?
Nope.
Applicant testify to?
No.
Okay.
No, if you could just have the applicant adopt your statement.
You've already stated your name for the record, and would you please, for the board, attest to the statements that I made being indicative of your opinions and your application?
100%, yes,
Thank you.
Okay.
sure.
Do you have any other witnesses or testimony evidence you want to put on, Jeff?
Just if any neighbors wanted to chime in, I know you guys called that last time, I'm just
Okay.
sure if you
and
would again.
We are going to continue this case at the conclusion of tonight's hearing for the reason you stated earlier. You're going to, parking, the ratio of the home, total square footage, the accessory use, and impervious surface coverage, and whatever other parking issues.
Okay. Got it.
I would also ask if your architect or whoever did your footprint could show the entire footprint, including your garage and your other driveway on Wexford, right?
And also note the parking spots you're talking about on Wexford. You said there was some street parking that's reserved for you. Sure.
Got it.
With that, I'll ask if there are any residents that receive certified mail. Please, ladies first. Please come. Okay, come on up. You guys.
All right,
I need to swear you both, but
Okay.
in order for Arlene to keep an accurate record, only one person can speak at a time, okay?
okay.
So, swear, ladies first. Please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
And your full name and address for the record, please?
Nancy Cribbs, 341 Brookline Boulevard. KRIBBS.
Okay. Please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
And your full name and address for the record, please?
Gary Cribbs, 341 Brookline Boulevard.
Okay. And do you have a primary spokesperson between the
Yeah,
two of you?
that'll be me.
Okay. And so what would you like to tell us?
Okay, basically, we're the house next door.
We're
Okay, in the picture. We're just happy somebody's moving in and gonna fix up the place. We've been there, we moved in August of '89. And it's been in disrepair the whole time. It had worked on the inside, but unfortunately not on the outside. So we're very pleased. We kind of buy into the concept. Obviously, if all the township and zoning issues can be worked out with the parking, we're not opposed to it in that sense. And just for clarification, they rebuilt that curb cut on Brookline only 3 or 4 years ago. Okay, so it's more recent. And the area, the grassy area and everything else, it's pretty much gravel, but the grass has grown up between it. You know, there was a monster tree over on the right-hand side where the handicap's gonna go, but that was about it, just for clarification. We've been looking at it for 30 years.
And people have been parking every which way in any direction they could get in there before, so if there were
But they do enter from
real
Brookline.
parking spaces, it might be a little more organized.
So can I just ask on that question, the people would park on the gravelly spot,
Right,
and then people would park also on the front lawn or front yard, somewhere in front of Brookline or on Wexford, or both?
basically, the sidewalk's there on both sides of that.
Right.
Usually when it was on the east side towards the church, they would be parallel with Brookline, and then they'd be perpendicular to Brookline when they parked on the west side, where the handicap's going.
Okay. And so were they, they were showing parking that was going to be on essentially the front yard next to like,
Right.
inside the sidewalk, right?
Yes.
Where it would be. But to get that, if someone was parked on the gravel spot, would they, using the apron that exists on the road as the curb cut, how do they get onto the yard? Were they just going over the
It's gonna be a
curb?
little tight.
Yeah.
It's gonna be a little tight. So that would have to be worked out, so.
Is that it, Gary?
That's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Joe, do you have questions for them?
I don't, but I would like to add one thing. I was just informed by another neighbor that the township actually painted no parking signs in front of the Brookline curb cut, and he was just showing me pictures of that. So that'll be something we'll submit photos.
Right, so in addition to everything else that was stated before, could you bring some additional pictures to really give this board an idea of what
Definitely.
they're looking at?
Okay, great.
Okay, is there anyone else that received certified mail that wishes to testify? Anyone that received regular mail? Any other resident? Yes, ma'am. Hello?
Hello.
Please
I'm
raise
Margaret
your-
Thomas.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
And your full name and address, please?
Margaret Mary Thomas, 346 Sagamore Road, and I live directly in back of the property on Brookline Boulevard. And I have to tell you, I really do appreciate their enthusiasm and their wanting to make the building better, but I do have some concerns. One of it is the parking spots. I realize it'll probably be tight, but as you said, you were hoping that it would be maybe gravel. On Wexford Road, it's a downgrade from Brookline Boulevard to my house, so I am concerning about the water runoff, that if it would become paved, where would the water go to? And it would be onto my property, and I was just concerned about that. I was also concerned about the amount of parking. It was said tonight that perhaps there was a parking spot on Brookline Boulevard. There's a bus stop on Brookline Boulevard from the corner of Wexford Road onto the curb cut. So I don't see that there could be a parking spot, and I'm just concerned about the cars coming in and out with the bus stop being there, the bus being there, somebody blocking their view. That's just my concern. The other thing is with the short-term parking, that's an awful lot of traffic. Wexford Road is a small road, and there's parking on both sides that makes it a one-way street. It's really hard to maneuver. So if you have a lot of cars coming up and down that street, it's also going to be very difficult for us to go up and down Wexford Road. And with the cars stopping and going, it'll be cars starting, doors slamming. There will be increase of noise in the neighborhood. So that would be from the hours of 7 to 3:30. So that is just some of the concerns that I have with this, although I do appreciate their enthusiasm again.
Any questions for, for Margaret? Kenny?
No.
Bill?
No.
Jessica? Ed?
No.
Okay. Joe? Thank you. All right. Anyone else? Yes, sir. Please come forward. Please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
And your full name and address for the record, please?
John Thomas, 346 Sagamore Road.
Okay. What would you like to tell us?
Obviously,
John?
I'm her husband. My question is, on the Brookline Boulevard side, there's a double entrance parkway curb cut, okay? And then on the Wexford side, there's one curb cut, obviously for the residential part. So I'm not township ordinance. Is that permitted, 3 entrances to your residence?
3 parking spots, you mean?
No, entrance. It's a double wide on Brookline Boulevard.
Right.
And then another one on Wexford for the same property.
So, we're not in a position where we,
Okay, well, all right, that being
Are
said,
gonna answer-
then you also have a, I guess you got this drawing, right?
yes.
Okay. What is where it says restroom, the circle restroom, can you see the circle there? What are those positions? Are they countertop?
seats or, I don't
think
know.
what you see in the bathroom is that circle depicts a minimum, a radius for a wheelchair
No, I understand that, but what
accessibility.
about this here? You see the circle outside that? This here, what is this? I can't read it. It's so small, I can't read it.
Oh, this is the counter.
So it's a counter. So there's more seats.
No, just the counter for,
Serving counter? Nobody can sit there.
nobody will sit there.
All right, that was my question. I can't read it. It's so small, I can't read it. And the only other question is like litter. Kids coming home from school, stop in the coffee shop, find a cup of coffee, walking by and throw the trash on the lawn.
That's a comment, not a question, right?
Well, it's a concern.
Okay,
All right, thank you.
thank you. Any questions for John? Kenny, Bill, Jessica, Ed, Joe? Okay. Anyone else? Whether you received the letter or not? Yes.
Hi, my name is, do I have to?
You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
And your full name and address for the record, please?
Colette Bannon, B-A-N-N-A-N, 334 Sagamore Road. I live just behind the property. I do walk my dog past it every single day. I can attest that it is an eyesore in the community. First of all, I wanted to say that Tuscany Cafe are pretty good neighbors here in Haverford Town. The one that they operate here, very clean, fresh food. Everybody really seems to like it a lot. I know it's not going to be the same kind of thing, which is good, but I think it's a quality enterprise, and I just wanted to go on record to state that. I think our neighborhood could use a little neighborhood community place like this. I think it will get a lot of walk-in traffic. And I did do an informal poll of our block just by email, and there was a lot of enthusiasm for coming after church and grabbing a cup of coffee or, going on their way home or hopefully not on their way in. The other thing, I wanted to just comment, my only concern is just setting any precedent here, because I feel like this is kind of a community gathering space, but what happens if they decide to leave and then it is considered still commercial and something that's not as great a use for the neighborhood can come in? I don't know if this is opening up any doors to that effect. I mean, the beauty salon didn't get much business, and they did park wherever they wanted to park, but it didn't seem like it was a heavy use. This may be a little bit more, but what happens if they decide to move on, and will it still be zoned residential, I'm assuming?
And Colette, we're not changing the zoning.
That's what I'm
That's not even
assuming,
within our
yes.
purview.
Right.
So if we granted this application, once all the other matters or issues that we raised this evening are addressed, it would be permitted to be used as a coffee shop.
But as a different owner too, like if another owner came in, they could also operate a coffee shop?
Yes.
Okay. But not a restaurant? Somebody then couldn't come in, would that be opening a door for more of a full-fledged restaurant?
If it's a change in use, and I'll ask our
I
solicitor
don't-
to
yeah,
correct me
I-
if I'm wrong.
Mm-hmm.
If it's a change in use, they would have to come back to the board.
That's correct.
So, but coffee shop to restaurant would be a change in use?
That would be a determination for the codes office to make at the
Okay.
time. Obviously, I can't give legal advice. However,
That's why
typically what happens in a change of a non-conforming use to another non-conforming use, certain restrictions are placed on the then approved non-conforming use, which would limit what they're able to do.
For
So,
example, we can impose reasonable conditions such as it be a coffee shop that triggers.
yes. I was getting there. I'm a lawyer. I'm a
That
lawyer.
was my only
I get paid by the
That's
word.
my only concern, is just like an encroachment, and then what if the next, the house sells and that becomes something else? But, as I said, most of the neighbors that I polled seemed very enthusiastic about it. And we're excited to see this eyesore get a little bit more beautiful. Thank you.
Colette, wait, how many neighbors did you talk to, if I may?
Well, I have an email list for our block party. It's not everybody, but I would say I've got about 18 of us on there, and I got comments from maybe 6 or 7. All pretty positive.
Any questions? Joe? Any?
No.
Bill? Jess? Ed?
No.
Questions? Colette? No? Anyone else like to address the board? Commissioner McGarity. How are you, Jimmy?
Okay, thank you.
I get to swear you
Ladies
in.
and gentlemen,
Yeah.
we have a lady here now. so
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So
I do.
And your full name and your address.
Okay, James E. McGarity, 401 Kenmore Road, for the past 74 years. So we'll go back 68 years ago when it was Monk Gallagher owned this business. And it was newspapers, Monks, M-O-N-K-S, and it was a sweet shop and newspapers and things like that, ice cream. But anyway, he had that, and basically, there was a major problem there because of the kids going to the school at the time, Annunciation. And with that, we had all kinds of problems. But eventually, he left, then somebody else came in, then the hairstylist came in, and now these people are coming in. And the only thing I'm saying is that because of the problems they had in the past with the kids, those kids now are grown up, but the other ones are coming up. And I'm just afraid with a place to go and hang, basically, that could cause a problem. The Brookline Boulevard, as far as parking, you can't park out in the boulevard. There's 2 no signs right there, so that's out. When you make your right turn on Wexford, the first spot is not there because you can't park, no parking here at the corner, so that's out. I would say they have probably, at best, 5 parking spots along Wexford. If the church isn't operating, or if the senior citizens from St. Denis and Annunciation aren't there that day, or now the latest rumor is the seniors from possibly the Brookline School will be coming over to Annunciation, which is going to bring more traffic. So I just want to bring all these facts, and as far as the property being cleaned up, yes, they've done a good job cleaning up their property. I just, myself, being around there for 77 years now, I'm not particularly in favor of it because of the fact that I think it's going to bring in something we don't want in there. And not that it would be their fault, but the skateboarders come around, people come around, and of course the parking out front, to me, is the worst thing in the world because it sets a precedent for other people saying, well, why can't I park on my front lawn? This is R4, I'm R4. And they're right. So why can't they? So that's what you got to worry about because of that setting that precedent. So I myself would feel that you shouldn't be able to park out in the front. You should put the grass back there that was there forever until, I believe, it was prior to the beauty salon. I don't know how that happened. I don't think it ever went through the township. I think the person that was there at the time just put it down, and that's how it ended up. So I thank you for your time.
Any questions for Jimmy? Kenny?
What's the score at Villanova?
Well, I hope it's 82-3, Villanova. I was going to say, Mr. Richardson there, he doesn't say too much about age because he's catching me. 4 more years will be by me.
Bill?
Jim, I have one question. If the applicant were not open after school gets out, would that sort of mitigate some of your concerns or reduce them about kids hanging out there for, if it's, yes, it would be open on Saturday, but if it's really openly there, you'd have kids who are probably coming in to grab some food to go to school? But
That's
maybe-
correct, yeah. But the one thing is, you got to remember that it's just not kids coming out of school, and that's what worries me about the front part, because if that's paved, they're going to be skateboarding there. And, right away across the street, the church, we had to put up signs all over the place, no skateboarding allowed, because they were all over the place. And Mrs. Thomas can tell you that. They were really coming down that hill. Of course, they don't stop at a stop sign. And she was afraid somebody was going to get killed, and so was I, and she was right.
Ed? Jessica?
No.
All right. Joe?
So just
like to say.
Yes.
We'll have the owners living there. They'll put up no skateboarding signs. She just said that, and they'll be like physically in the property when it's not open. So that negates
Well,
some kind of concern.
Just out of curiosity, if you're not open and you're not there, just say you're out, who's going to chase them?
I guess there's no answer to that.
Because the police won't because you didn't call. Thank you.
Yeah, I was going to say Jessica's idea about, pervious paving would be relatively unfriendly to skateboarders
Yes.
because you'd have grass pieces. in it.
Right, they couldn't skateboard there.
Right.
It would
so-
also kind of discourage people from parking a little bit, so you may end up with more walk-in traffic, but you'd have the spaces if you needed them.
Particularly for a handicap,
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Thanks, Jimmy. Anyone else? Yes? Yes.
So you're talking about the parking, and my house sits sideways on the property, and I live on Sagamore Road and Wexford Road. So my house sits sideways, my front door is Wexford. So if they're parking down the street, it's gonna take parking away from us, in front of my house. And I know it's a public street, and everybody's allowed to park there, but again, it's gonna be more difficult parking for us. And that's just one of my concerns. Okay.
Is there any part of Wexford that's permit parking by
No.
residents?
No, I do have a driveway, I'm gonna be honest with you, I do have a driveway, but they're gonna be coming down. And again, with the traffic going in and out. And about the skateboarders, I just wanna tell you about the kids hanging out, because you're gonna be open during the summertime.
You need to address the floor.
I'm sorry, they're gonna be, there's gonna be in the summertime, the kids are gonna be there. And I appreciate, she said, the owner said that they're not gonna allow the skateboarders, the kids to hang out there, but we really had a hard time with Annunciation, and the priests live there. So it was really hard, and we had to get the police involved, so, I just wanna say that's another concern.
I don't think that their product is the same as the sweet shop with the ice cream.
I
Either
understand.
or adult,
Okay.
in my opinion.
Anyone else? Okay. Joe, is there anything you'd like to add before we continue? All right, with that, this case is continued to our April 18th hearing. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, board. Thank you, neighbors. Really appreciate it. Do I just return with evidentiary packets or do I submit them prior?
Yeah, you just bring them. If you want, look, Joe, you can write that block for me if you want to run them by me.
Oh,
Just
you're,
so I'm 21 West Third.
oh, cool.
So if you want to try, I know
Brett
you.
Selleck's my landlord and my client. He owns that building, I don't know if you knew. Here's the street.
I did.
We're local celebs, no big deal. You guys have any questions?
You guys, all right, on this contract down at Medical Center tonight.
They gave him a double open,
Ed, you want to try to knock it out tonight, Medical Center?
right?
Medical?
No, these guys never had them.
Well, why would they, why would the, okay, do you guys want to try to knock?
Yeah. Why not?
It's not like that.
Do we have,
It's not, it's got the,
I know. You look at,
these people have decided
Thank you.
when they say,
Mr. Wagner, how are you?
because there's no curb,
yeah.
We're going to go off the record.
it's done.
What's your West Third address on your?
Going to give the chopper money? Okay. Our next case is Z19-5, Andrew and Sharon Major, owners of 1 Jack's Way, Havertown, PA, VC folio number 2209-0153-156, who seek a variance from the provisions of section 182-206C7 to allow construction of a 20-foot by 20-foot deck that will encroach into the required 25-foot rear setback by 15.5 inches. Feet. 15.5 feet. Property is zoned R4 and located in the 9th Ward. Andrew Major, I presume.
Yes, sir.
Please raise your right hand, Andrew. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, I do.
And will you please state your full name and address for the record, please?
Andrew Major, 1 Jacks Way, Havertown.
Okay, please tell us a little bit what you would like to do and why, Andrew.
Right, yeah, so as you can see in the plot plan, my plot, highlighted in green there,
Andrew, before we start, you have two exhibits that are pre-marked, Exhibit A1. Could you tell the board what Exhibit A1 is?
A1 is my entire plot plan.
And as it stands now, the present
Yes, sir.
conditions?
Yes.
And what is Exhibit A2?
A2 contains my plot plan with the proposed deck.
Could you hand those up to me, because I need to keep the originals for the records. So when you started to testify, and you were testifying as to the plot plan, you were looking at Exhibit A2, proposed plot plan, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Please go on.
Thank you. The entire plot is my entire lot. However, as you can see, the open space, as it designated by the yellow, extends behind my house. The left side goes behind my house, okay? 25 feet of open space. As I understand the rules, it's 25 feet of setback required within the open space. I do not currently have a deck on the back of my house. I would like a deck on the back of my house. I'm asking, proposing to put a 20 by 20 foot deck on the back of my house, which extends into the setback, 15.5 feet. It's just a standard flat rectangular shape when looking down from the top deck attached to the house.
Do you Bill, open space? I'm just-
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, sir. And that's on the deed as well.
And it's two parcels on one deed, or is it one parcel on the deed?
One parcel on the deed with the open space is designated on the deed.
But you own both the green shaded and the yellow shaded as one parcel?
Yes, that's correct.
Subject to the open space restriction?
Yes, that's correct.
Question, Jessica?
So the existing plan shows that you have a patio off your house. Is that there
No.
now? Okay.
I think what you're looking at was proposed. That patio piece was not completed by the builder.
Okay. And then your proposed plan has both the 20 by 20 deck and then a separate patio?
Yes, so the patio, I was told by members of the zoning board that the patio does not need to be included in this variance request. Only the deck does.
So I guess my question is...
Jessica, excuse me one second. You were told by people from the zoning office,
Yes,
not the zoning
not the
board.
zone, yeah,
Okay. I
apologies.
just want to make that clear. Right.
So what material are you looking at for the patio, just out of curiosity?
It would be stone or brick,
stone.
so impervious.
Okay.
And I've also already talked to the zoning,
To Joan?
to Joan, yeah, that the calculation does pass the percentage impervious calculation for the lot.
Okay, so then my question is, what is the reasoning for you to need a deck, the 20 by 20 deck versus just doing one large patio? Because in that case, you wouldn't need a variance at all.
Right, that's correct. I just wanted a deck and not a patio on the side.
Is there a change in level from your house to the backyard, from where you'd be exiting the house to the deck?
Is there, there's a slight grade, It's almost flat ground, but there is a slight grade.
So I'm assuming you're going out of the kitchen or something
Yes.
similar. So if you just cut an opening in your wall right now and stepped out, it would just be, 6 inches or so.
From the step down, it would be about 3.5, 4 feet.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
So the deck is significantly higher than your patio.
Yes,
There'll be
yes.
steps from one to the other.
Right.
Okay, so really feasibly, if you did a patio, you would have to have steps from your house down to get to it.
yes, correct. The proposed patio would be flat on the ground. The deck would be raised to level
Okay.
the slider that comes out the
Which is
kitchen.
about 3 feet.
Yes,
3 or
about
4
3 feet, yeah.
Ready?
And then what set the size of the deck, the 20 by 20?
As you can see from the plot plan, there's a slight kick out in the back of the house, running the one edge of the deck along with that kick out, and then just like a big deck, so that was the reason for the 20 feet, 20 by 20.
That's what they need. Andrew, now you own the open space,
Yeah,
or what's depicted in A2, it's circled in the yellow.
yes,
You own, if the setback were measured from the open space property line, would you be encroaching into the 25-foot setback? So, in other words,
I don't understand the question.
if you were measuring this property line.
That's the property line
is
that
the
I'm measuring
one
from, yeah.
That you measured?
Yes,
So this says 24.98, this number here.
okay,
So is that the measurement from this point to this point?
yes,
So that's 25 feet,
25 feet.
and the deck isn't within that 25 feet.
Not within the open space, no.
So my question was, and is, if this piece of open space portion of your property that you own the space here, right?
Yeah.
If this were included in your setback calculations, would you be encroaching, would your deck be encroaching? So if you were measuring from your property line here to the deck, would the deck be encroaching into a 25-foot setback?
No, not into the setback, no.
Okay, and the open space, that's a deed restriction, right?
Yes, sir.
So you can't build within the open space area.
It's on the deed, yes.
But your property boundary actually is the light yellow shaded.
Yes, all the way down to Fairview and all the way on to Jack's Way, yeah.
Can the open space be sold separately from your lot? Because currently they're deeded together.
Currently, they're deeded together. I don't know if it can be sold separately. I don't think so.
So I just want to be clear, so deeded together, but it's on your deed, you have one parcel. It's just that on that parcel, there's a separately identified open space
Yeah.
restriction?
Yes,
Or is it two parcels on one deed?
it's one parcel on one deed, and the deed specifies
Gives-
open space.
Internal bound, or it
Yeah,
specifies the boundaries of the space in which you cannot build.
It gives the degrees, which include the open space, yes.
Do you have a copy of your whole deed with you?
I
just
do,
have the
I
first
do,
page.
yes,
Can I see it?
yes. I have more copies too, if you need, anybody know. Copies.
parcels. Space restriction. Yeah.
Well, they're looking at that. Did you bring a copy, by the way, of your denial letter?
Denial?
A letter telling you that you had to come here? Saying you had requested a permit to build the deck and the township said, no, you need to come to zoning,
No, this was new construction 2 years ago.
right?
The way I talked about it with the builder was, what we're challenging now, the setback and the variance. For that reason, there's no deck on it currently.
Yeah.
So this is my initial request. I don't have a previous
Okay.
denial.
So you didn't submit a building permit for the deck and then get told,
No,
no,
no.
come here?
I've been talking to Joan, who's told me this is what I need to do.
Okay, what we're gonna do is, we're gonna mark this deed as Exhibit A3.
Okay.
So just hold tight for a second. Thank you.
Quick.
Any other questions? Jess?
No.
Ed?
Do you have the measurement from your proposed deck to your actual buildable lot, the lot line outside of the open space? How far are you setting it back from the open space, the edge of your deck?
How far am I setting it back from the open space? Five feet.
5 feet? Are you sure?
Would you be comfortable if we asked you to build it no closer to the open space line than 6 inches? You'd be okay with that?
To the open space line.
I mean, my view on this is that he's got 24.98 feet setback already from his property line to the boundary of the open space. If he doesn't build right to the line, I'm not sure he needs a variance.
Because if the deed says it's all one lot, then is it really two lots?
And it seems to say that it's one, but there's no mention of an open space restriction. So I'm going to ask Bill to research the deed and the open space restriction, and we're going to continue the case to our next hearing. Bill will come back with answers, and then we'll know with certainty whether or not a variance is even required, given this plot plan.
Okay.
But let's get any questions, asked now. Do you have any other questions?
Yeah, just a couple other questions. These questions come up often on decks and patios, but particularly decks. Were you planning to have electricity on the outside of the deck?
Maybe some lighting, the lighting posts.
Electrical outlet on the outside of your house?
No, I mean, those already exist. Electrical outlets already
do.
exist. Floodlights already exist. Nothing
Okay, and,
too large.
But you don't plan to enclose it in any way?
No,
no roof over it?
no roof, one level, one floor, whatever you call it.
And so, Ms. Vitale's question to you about when you step out, you'd have to step down, you said maybe 3 or 4 steps. On the deck, you would step out literally from your kitchen floor, or whatever it is, flush to the deck. That's how high you're looking to build the deck?
Yeah, it would be, with the first floor of the house, it would be on the same level as the first floor of the house.
And then over on the side, you'd step down to the part that's your patio.
Yes, exactly. There would be steps down to the back.
And you'll, at 3 feet, you're start to get into code requirements on railings. Are you planning to put a railing?
Yes, railing, yes.
And where are the downspouts currently on your house? Do they,
At the downspouts are at the corners of the house. My neighbor has already complained about the downspouts being routed onto her property. It's totally unrelated, but I'm actually going to move the downspouts as part of this project because I'll be digging up for the footers anyway. But yes, I will move the downspouts, yeah, to the end of the property.
okay, so the downspouts, so you're not, when you say you're digging it up, this is to put footers in for your deck?
Yeah.
And you wouldn't, have you thought about putting any way to retain your downspout water under your deck?
No.
As opposed to diverting it off your property? I mean, the goal is to hold it on your property and not just divert it off. We see people who have different ways to address downspouts.
Okay.
You know, sometimes it ends up in the street.
No, I don't have that option. I don't have to move the downspouts as any requirement of this project. My neighbor requested it, and I was going to do it as a courteous
So
to the neighbor.
you're essentially moving the downspouts from the side of your house that faces your neighbor's lot to the opposite side that
Yes.
faces your open space.
Yes.
I don't have any other questions.
Kenny?
Nothing?
Okay. Ed?
So basically, you're moving it uphill, and he's still gonna see it because it comes right back down to him. He's just not gonna be, because the contours all go down to lot 6 on this plot.
Yeah, and that's her complaint, is that the water comes down into her yard.
Which I think it pretty much has to, because if I'm
There's
not
no other-
mistaken,
yeah.
there's a basin down below where it all has to drain to.
Right.
To be in compliance with your existing stormwater plan for this subdivision. So there's only limited stuff you can
Yeah.
do, okay? I have no other questions.
No other questions?
With that, I'll ask if there's anyone present that received certified mail that wishes to testify, anyone present that received regular mail, any other resident of Haverford Township. With that, we will continue this case for the purpose of Mr. Malone researching the deed, the setback requirements with respect to this application. All right, this case is continued to our April 18th hearing.
Thank you.
Thank you. And okay, we go off the record. Now, did they say that it's lighted? Did we ask them about restricting the times that it's lit?
Yeah, it was in.
We're ready to rock and roll, Chris. Okay. With regard to case Z19-3, Manoa Medical Center, Jessica, are you prepared to vote on that case this evening?
Yes, I am.
Ed, are you prepared to vote?
Yes, I am.
Bill, are you prepared?
I am.
Kenny, are you prepared?
Yes.
And so am I. Jessica, would you please take that decision?
I motion that we approve the application with the following conditions. First, that the sign will consist of fixed lettering only, no digital signage is permitted. Second, that the sign will be backlit and will only be on from dusk to 10 p.m. Third, if the building sign is replaced in the future, the owners will need to come back to the board for additional relief. And fourth, the project will be completed within a year in accordance with the notes of testimony.
Ed?
I concur.
Bill? I agree. Kenny?
I agree.
So do I. That application is approved 5-0 with those conditions. And with that, unless there's any other business, did we already move the minutes? Yes. Yeah. We are adjourned.